So just for a bit of context, thank you all for coming. So this is the lot 3 and 4 for the Eastern Routes Partnership RSVT training video. So how you report against your social value commitments that were made during your invitation to tender stage. So we've got Sam and Adrian today giving an overview of the RSVT, and then afterwards I can do some sessions about how to transfer the data from the Rail Social Value tool into Supplier Management tool, which is a way that will monitor the KPIs. So hopefully, does anyone have any questions so far? Okay, I'll hand over to Luke then.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Vicky. Yeah, thank you everyone for joining. So as Vicky said, essentially what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through a quick training session, more of a demonstration really of what Loop/RSVT is, how it works, how you interact with it. Really, it's going to be very simple. I'm not going to sort of overblur what you need to know. I'm just going to show you guys how the system works, how to enter data, how it'll look from your side of things, and I'll wrap it up at the end just by showing you essentially what Vicky sees once you've done your part. I'm going to run through the full thing. I've got a dead stop at past. Personally, I've got a personal appointment I need to move off to, so if we get to past and we're still going, Adrian will jump in and take over my glorious assistant to my left. However, if there's any questions or anything like that, you can ask them as we go. You can save them for the end. I'm not very precious, all right? But with all that being said, I'll start waffling and I'm going to share my screen. So let me just begin by sharing that. Is this come through? Can you all see that okay? Get a few thumbs up, nodding heads. Well, great. Yeah, perfect. Smashing. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you from the jump. So it should start with a little email like this. Okay, it might say you've been assigned to a metric. It might say you've been assigned to an activity. Okay, it will say something to this effect. All right, and what will happen is it'll ask you to log in. All you need to do is click on this little login button. It'll then take you essentially straight to our login page, where here you will choose your own name and password. Then you can log in. You can also set up a Microsoft single sign-on. Now, if you do activate this, you can no longer log in using your email and password. That's just the nature of how security logons work. So if you activate a security logon, you will no longer be able to use the password and username. It will always be a single sign-on. Now, I'm going to skip past that. This is the RSVT. This is the very first thing you'll see when you log in. It's your main dashboard. Now, this is where we aggregate all of the data that you as a supply chain user are putting on the tool and contributing towards Network Rail's project. So it's all of the contributions you've entered into the tool, all of the data that you've entered into the tool, just aggregated onto this dashboard for you. It doesn't include anybody else's data. It's purely your own. So just to explain what you're looking at, you've got your total social value that you contributed so far. We then break that down across the 3 key pillars, okay, which would be social, the impact on the individual, their health, mental health, their overall well-being, environmental, which is positive and negative impacts on the environment, and then economic, which is typically the money that circulates through the local UK economy as a result of those interventions. You also get some graphical breakdown, your top 10 most used metrics, your most valued by location, as well as you can get that in ascending and descending order, as well as you can get it in a map box as well. So instead of having it as a graph, you can have it as a little interactive map. And then you'll get a deep dive at the bottom, which is just a roundup of all of the metrics that you have entered into the tool across all of the various different projects you're assigned to as a supply chain user. And it's just a roundup. So you can see we've been assigned to 3 different projects, and we've used the apprenticeship metric on 3 different projects right now. We've hired a total of 11 FTE of apprentices, and that's a total value of £370,000. Okay, so it's just a roundup of all your data. And then finally, you can rip all of this main dashboard off onto a quick report, a little PDF snapshot report in the top right-hand corner. So that will just take a screenshot of everything that you've got selected on this page at the time. And you can also filter that report by using this little filter icon right there, where you can choose between the frameworks, the divisions, the stages of your projects, the unique reference, the location, any date ranges. You've got whole access. So just like Network Rail have access to reports and filtering and reporting. We've also given you the same sort of access to your own data. Now, with all that being said, I just wanted to explain that main page because you land there, it's probably where you'll spend quite a lot of time, and I just wanted to make sure you're sort of comfortable with what you're looking at. So the user journey from here is now what we want to do. We've been assigned to a project by someone at Network Rail, let's just say it was Vicky. What we want to do now is access that project or that activity and start inputting the data that we've got for the targets that have been set for us. So it looks like this. All you do is come up to this left-hand side where you've got a little burger menu. Select the menu. You'll have a whole list of options, okay? All you want to do is click on where it says activities. Now, the terminology in the tool is called activities and metrics. Now, what we call an activity, you might call a report or a project. What we call a metric, you might call a measurement or an indicator. It's all terminology, it's all much of a muchness. Don't get too worried, okay? The activity is just, you know, what's being done. It's the project that you're running, it's the report that you're doing, it's the bid that you're working on. The metrics are what drives value. So that will be job creation, volunteering, donations to charity, working with small, medium enterprise businesses. Those are metrics. So that's just what the terminology means. Now, when you load into the activities, you probably won't have this much data, and your dashboard might even be blank, because it will only populate with data when you've been assigned to a project and you've input that data. So on here, you can see that I've used this account for quite a few different projects. So I've been invited in on a number of different projects for Network Rail. The one that's most relevant for me is this one right here. You can see it says Network Rail supply chain. If I click into it, you can see this is a Network Rail supply chain example that I've set up earlier. I'll get some very loose details, okay, just the key ones that are not sensitive to Network Rail, but are important to give me context on what this project is. So I should get the name of it, the stage, because we have 3 reporting stages: forecast, monitor, and evaluate. Forecast is where we set targets to work towards, and that's where we set projections, forecasts that we're going to work towards. Monitor is where you have targets, but you also have achieved data that you can enter. So it's target versus achieved, and then evaluate is just the final stage. That is where it's just achieved data. So typically, you guys will be brought in at the monitoring stage, okay? Because at monitoring, Network Rail can set a target for you that you can come in and input your progress against. If you get set a forecast, you can only change the targets that have been set for you. So if you ever do get set a forecast, probably a mistake, just raise it with your line manager. There should always be a target to work towards and then an achievement box where you enter your data against it. This is how it should look. So we come up to where it says metrics, select that, and you can see now we have a list of 5 metrics that have been set for us by Network Rail. Okay, and these are part of the mandatory metrics. This is a selection that Vicky sent over regarding sort of 12 mandatory targets that you guys have. I've just taken a selection of them just so we don't spend too much time on it. But you can see there's things such as apprenticeships at level 3, the percentage of people in the workforce that are local, jobs creation for graduates, STEM training, and also small business support and spending. So you can see when you guys log on, it looks like there's a lot of information there because there's quite a lot on the screen. All this means is you have been set these metrics as targets. You can see, and I'll just zoom in because I'm quite nearsighted, so I just want to make sure you can see it all. You can see that we've been set a target, and with that target comes a target value. Now, we know we're at the right stage because we have a target value, and we also have what says achieved value and progress. If it doesn't have that graphic, then you're either at forecast or evaluate, and you don't want to be there because you can't be set a target. You can only input your achieved data or set a target for yourself. So unless you've been specifically told you're getting involved at one of those stages, it should always look like this, okay? Because now you can work towards the goals that have been set for you. So really, really simple, okay? All we do when we want to enter data against these targets, let's just scroll down and find the one we want to update. So we've been set a target of creating 2 apprentices. And now you guys might not get set something specific. Vicky might say, you know, we want you to achieve these targets, but it's up to you how much you deliver. She might set a generic target of 1, because, you know, we have to put something in there, and you guys can just go and input what you want. She may set you a very specific target. Okay, it's up to Network Rail, it's up to how they choose to prepare their project. So go on, Vicky.
Sam, in this project, or within this project, everyone will be set targets that they need to report against, and it will all be in the monitoring stage.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Vicky, for the clarification. So perfect, yeah, you should all have targets set for you. So it should be really simple. All you do is come down, find the metric that you're looking to update. You might have different data at different times, you might do them all in one go. Whatever the case may be, find the metric you're looking to update, select it. So just click on the tile. It'll open up, and again, I know it looks like there's a lot of information. Promise you, it's really, really simple from this point. So this metric details, you don't have to change any of this, okay? Other than potentially the location and the start and end date if it's relevant. If you don't need to, that's absolutely fine, okay? You can click up here on this little edit pencil button, which we are looking to remove, just for future reference, because none of us like it. But you click on the little edit pencil, like so, and you'll see it will enter edit mode. This is where you can now interact with the metric and input your own data. So again, you want to ignore all of this because these are targets that Vicky has set up. Scroll all the way to the bottom where you can see metric achievements. This is where you input your data. So the target has been set of 2 apprentices. So what I would do is scroll down. I can see that this runs from 25 to 2026 and it's represented in real periods. So it goes from period 1 to period 10 and 2026 it runs up from period 11 back to period 1, and that reflects the start and end date. Okay, if this was quarters or months, it would reflect that within quarters or months. So all we do is come down to find the relevant period, okay, whenever that may be, and input our data against it. That's it. From there, I click save. Okay. Now, what happens when you click save is that will update the metric for you. So if I now, you see I'm still within the same metric once it's updated. If I scroll down, I can see I've now got achieved data as a percentage of my overall target. If I go back and look at the overall metrics, I can see that this tile is updated. I'm now at 50% progress. My achieved value is half of my target value, and I am at 1 out of 2. It is that simple, okay? We want to update the same metric again, click on it again, click on the edit pencil, scroll down. Let's say we missed the next 2 periods, and it was period 4, we brought the next person in. And again, we can just click save on that. Now, before I do that, there are extra things that you can do. Okay, so we use what's called dynamic weighting and regional weighting within our tool, where we look at levels of deprivation, homelessness, unemployment, and we look at characteristic and stakeholder details to get a more accurate valuation. Because you might be hiring these people from a specific location, such as where I'm from in Hull. You might be potentially having extra detail behind people where, and this might be required of you when it comes to, for example, hiring graduates, things like this. So you can go to employment details and you can choose the sector you're hiring for. So let's just say it's going to be transportation and storage. You can choose an employment type, whether it's direct or indirect into your company. Whether the work placement is paid or unpaid. If it is paid, you can do a median salary, let's just say it's 30 grand. You can get to the occupation level if you so desire. Again, you can just type in, so if it's transportation, probably just type in transport, get machine driver and operative. And then you can also get employment history if you want, whether previously unemployed, which would be 6 months or more, long-term unemployed, which is 12 months or more. You might not know or want to ask, so you can put unknown. And if it's just a retention or a safeguarding of a job, you can do continuous employment. Let's just say I'm going to hire from a pool of long-term unemployed. And you also, again, have the option for stakeholder detail. Now, again, I want to emphasise, none of this is mandatory unless Network Rail say it is. Okay, so unless they clarify and say we want you to add X, Y, and Z, you do not have to do this. But all of this data, all this information, is classed as underrepresented or protected characteristics by the government, meaning it will all have an effect on the social value outcome. Because, for example, out of these two people, I could say potentially one of them is an ex-offender, maybe one of them is formerly homeless, which would obviously have a massive impact on the value being generated due to their backgrounds and the nature of how the social value system works. After that, you've got things like age, ethnicity, education levels, gender. Again, you don't have to fill all that in. You can do little bits and pieces. It's completely up to you. Now, again, you can do this, or you can skip it unless Network Rail mandate it. The next part, for the keen eye out there, you'll see we've got additional details. And again, unless mandated, you don't have to, but you can also engage with this page. What this will allow you to do is leave notes and evidence. You've got up to 50,000 characters where you can explain what you're doing, how you've done it, who you've hired, the whole process, any context or insight that you think is important to share with Network Rail. You've also got comments where you can leave internal dialogue. Vicky, can you help me out here? I'm struggling a little bit on understanding what this metric is, or guys, I've attached this document, but I'm not sure if it's the right one, please can you check it? You can leave that internal dialogue and have that commentary back and forth. And then finally, you've got attachment. Oh, sorry, go on, Vicky.
And so from our perspective, we will be doing assurance checks. So if you can add notes and evidence and then upload any evidence from, say that you've done it, say a safety talk of like attendees or any supporting data. So when it's assurance checks, it's easier to find it.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, thank you, Vicky. And again, really important, because all of this comes off in a report. So anything you put in there, when Vicky rips her reports off, or if you rip a report from it, all of that context will be included, all of your notes, all of your comments. So it's really, really important that you do leave it there, because it'll just cover your backs, especially if it's been mandated. And then finally, obviously you've got attachments. This is where you can upload any document you like, whether it be PDFs, videos, images, anything you want, any evidence to help support your claims that you're making. And again, you don't have to do any of these unless it's mandated, but you can. And whenever you're ready, you just click save. Okay, and what that will do is we'll update the entire metric for you. If we go back now, we will see that we're at 100% progress. Our achieved value matches our target value. We are at 2 out of 2. And then similarly, if we go up to this jobs metric, let's just say that we're looking to overachieve potentially. Okay, so we've been set a target of 5 jobs. However, in period 1 we hired 1 person, period 3 we hired another 2, period 4 we hired 1 more, and then we hired, let's just say, another 3 people in period 5, and 2 more in period 6. So we just, you know, we've hired extra than we should. Okay. If I click save on that, what will happen is we will scale up your achievements, whether it be below or above your target. So you can see now, we are at 108%. We're almost double of what our original target was. If we go back and look at the metric, we can see that we're at 180%. Our achieved value is just shy of double what our target value was, and we're at 9 out of 5. If we added 1 more, we'd be exactly double. So it will scale up and down. You don't have to worry. If you go a little bit above and beyond, and you want that to be recognised in the system, it will be. Obviously, I don't know, like I said, Network Rail's approach on that, if we want you to go above and beyond, but it is there and available to scale up or down with your achievements. And I think just one important thing within jobs, this is going to be really important, is the jobs metric is a roll-up. So if you're doing internship, Kickstarters, things like that, there are options within the jobs metric. If I just go back, in fact, so I'm just going to adding a metric. So the jobs metric might take many forms for yourselves. You've got general, graduates, paid work experience, unpaid work experience, year in industry, internship and Kickstarters. So there's a lot of them where it's say, something like graduates, you want to come to here, and this is where you can add and set your own metrics. However, obviously you might not be given that freedom. So this is where Vicky would set them for you. And again, you just come in, start inputting those extra metrics. So that is really, really how the data entry side of things work. It's really, really simple. Let me see that. I've gone through it a couple of times just to show you, what you do and how you do it. From here, okay, you can click onto where it says dashboards, and you will get, just like you get a corporate level dashboard for all of your data and projects, you'll get an individual activity level dashboard for your individual projects. So you can see here, this is our total achieved social value against the original target set for us by Network Rail. We can see our return on investment. We can see our impact across the social, environmental and economic pillars. We will get a little most used metrics track as well as social value by location, and we can swap it to a map view. At the monitoring progress, we'll get a little total social value progress chart, which you can see mine's a bit erratic because of what I've been doing the data entry. And then obviously you can do a bit of comparison to other frameworks and so on. And from here, you can rip this onto Excel, Word, or a PDF report. So if you want to do an export of everything you just put into the tool, so not only does Vicky have that information, but so do you. You can open it up right there, and it looks something like this, where you can see you've got all of your activity details that are important to you, your total targets versus your achieved, your progress, your return on investment, your key impacts across those three key pillars, and a full list of all your metrics, your names, your categories. It'll pull everything off, all your progress against it. Nice and simple. And again, that's just the Excel Word report. But that is essentially the long and short of how it works. And then all of that will then be fed back into your main dashboard on here. You'll see that this number will update to all this. And this is how it will look, just very quickly before I wrap things up and push back on any questions. This is how it will look from Vicky's point of view. So once you've done all of that input, all Vicky does is come onto here, go onto her activities, finds the activity she set for yourselves. And again, she'll have a lot more data. So obviously this is a dummy test that I created, so don't worry, it's all just random numbers for the sake of the demo. But you can see she's got a little bit more information. And when she clicks on metrics, not only can she see the metrics is set for you and any of the inputs that you put in there, you can see those are the 9 jobs that we just created. So I'll just zoom in because I'm on Chrome. You see these are the apprenticeship metrics we've just updated. That's the jobs metric that we've just updated. Not only that, but Vicky can from here make her life a bit simpler. And if she's tagged, for example, the metrics, she might have 10 or 15 of you guys or supply chain users on the same project. She can come into here, filter by supply chain user, and now she's just looking at the metrics that she's assigned to that supply chain user. She can go to her dashboard, get a full breakdown, rip it onto Excel, Word, PDF, all that good stuff. So that's how it all feeds back through. It all does it in real time. There's no waiting for it to update. As soon as you update your platform, it will update on Network Rail's platform. So that is essentially the long and short of it. I've tried to keep it streamlined to just show you the data entry side of things, which buttons you need to press, where you need to put the data in, that kind of thing. It should be fairly simple, and we've tried to give you guys as much ability to use the data that you put in the tool as possible as well. So you've got access to our framework, you've got access to our platform, you can rip all that data out and also get it sort of fed through the various different analysis tools that we use. So hopefully you guys feel the benefit of that as well as just obviously putting the data in with Network Rail. But long spiel cut short, that was a long little waffle that you were listening to me there for, so I do appreciate that. Any questions on anything I've just gone through? Is anyone still unsure, or would anyone like me to run back through any of the examples that I just did?
Sam, from my perspective, could you explain to supply chain the data they can see? So say if they upload data that say their colleagues can't see it?
Yeah, so similar to the rule is as simple as, like I said at the beginning, essentially, you as a supply chain user can only see the data you put into the tool. So from Vicky's point of view, as I just mentioned, she might have a project with 10 or 15 supply chain users on it. Vicky will see all of that data. She will see everyone who logs on, logs out, any history of interaction with the metrics. She can see all of that in her log. So, for example, on this project that we're looking at here, she goes to what's called activity team. She can see the supply chain users that have logged on, when they were assigned, what kind of changes they've been. She can go onto the individual metrics themselves. So, for example, this jobs metric, she can go onto here and she can go into the additional details section where she will now see an audit history. So she has full visibility on who's using the tool, when they use it, and what value they're adding. Each of you guys, your supply chain users, will only ever see your contribution. So if there's 10 of you, all on one project, all contributing £1 million, you will only see your £1 million. You won't see anybody else's data. However, Vicky will see the full £10 million from each 10 supply chain users. So it's completely safe, it's completely GDPR protected. only person who can see your data is you and Network Rail, the person who's invited you in, essentially. No one else can see it. Mark, I can see you've got your hand up, so I'll go to you then.
Yeah, thank you. I think just to build on that, so from Amy's perspective, if we have 3 data inputters or 3 people putting in data, myself and Joe, Michelle, there's a few of us on the call. If I input data, I will only be able to see the data I input. I won't be able to see the data that Amy has inputted.
Correct, unless you're put onto the same metric. So the way that we do this is that you can have multiple supply chain users on one metric. So if all of you guys are working in the same office want to be able to see the same data, you just add them all to the same metric. However, we have designed it so that it is individualized. So if you're not all on the same metric, you won't see each other's work, just to keep it as private as possible.
Sam,
Yeah,
when we were setting it, oh sorry Mark, but Sam, when we were setting it up, so I've asked all of the individual, well, I will ask for everyone to be assigned to every individual metric. So does that mean that, like say Amy, the 3 individuals will be able to see each of their data?
If you assign multiple supply chain users to the same metric, they can all see the same metric. So yeah, we only designed it, well, there's many use cases for it, but I would say the most typical use case is if you have 5 supply chain users that are all from the same organization, I would assign them all to the same metric so they can work on it together. But again, the reason that we've not made it a flat uniform, if you're all from the same org, you can all see everything, is because it does. Not every organisation works like that. There's a lot of GDPR breaches between departments and things like this. So we have to take the DPA and GDPR side of things very seriously. So it has to be a choice. If you want everyone to see the same stuff, you have to put them in the same area essentially.
And then say if everyone's on the same metric, and then when it comes to the overall project, say the 3 individuals at Amy, if I've assigned them to every metric, can they all see the total social value on the dashboard?
So that example again, sorry, Vicky.
So say from Amy, so there'll be Mark, Joanne and Michelle. So if I've assigned them to all individual metrics and say there's 15 of the metrics and they can see all 15, when we come to the main dashboard, they'll be able to see the whole collective data for Amy.
Yeah, if you any data you assign them to, they'll all see.
Okay, right, sorry, that wasn't my understanding, so that might be better. Thank you.
No, that's not a problem. So yeah, if you assign 3 people to a metric, all of the data from that metric will go back to all 3 of their dashboards. Because there's only one, when you assign somebody to a metric, there's only one data point that it can pull from, and you will all have access to the same data point. You can't have 3 separate data entries on one metric from 3 different users, if that makes sense, because you're all working from the same worksheet. It'd be like if you're all editing the same spreadsheet. You know, it's a shared work at that point.
Okay, that's good then. So for all of the suppliers, if you let me know of every individual who will need to see the data, I can make sure you're assigned to each individual metric, and then you can see it.
Yeah, I'll double check just because have you heard differently, Victoria, on that? Have you been told differently?
No, it's just my understanding, and it comes back to having one source of guidance. That my understanding was that you could only see the data you'd inputted, and that just comes back to like the miscommunication and challenges that I feel it's facing, that trying to give guidance out to our supply chain of how to do it, but I don't feel I always know, or things seem to have changed or misunderstood. So yeah, if clarity would be great, thank you.
No, yeah, that's absolutely fine. I'll pass that feedback on to Misha, and I'll ask her to reach out and see if they can help with that.
Thank you.
No problem. Are there any other questions at all? Because I've got a hard stop now, so I'm gonna dip off. Are there any other questions that anyone wants to ask? If not, I'll leave you in Adrian's capable hands.
Yeah, sorry, I do have another one. So when you've been inputting the metrics, we've been doing it on an annual basis. When we get into year 4, excuse me, are we able to see the historical data from years 2, 3, etc.? Or is it just done on an annual basis?
At Network Rail, we were going to set them up as individual year projects, so you'll still be able to see the old data and bring it together in the tagging system, but it won't all be one project.
Okay, thank you.
As it stands.
Yeah, just to answer from a logistical, in terms of how the platform works point of view, any data that you're assigned to or that you enter, you can see whether it's going back 2, 3 years, 10 years, it doesn't matter for us. As long as the data is in the system, you can filter and report by it. Obviously, it depends on how much network rail sort of allow you access to it, essentially.
Thank you.
No problem. All right, well, if there's no other questions, that'll be most likely the end of the session.
Yeah, but I'll stay on and then I can. So thank you, Sam and Adrian, for providing an overview, and then I can explain how we get our data from the RSVT into our supplier management tool.
Yeah, perfect.
Everyone here.
And I'll be in touch with you in the next few days with you to discuss the training video stuff.
Thank you. Thanks for your overview today.
No worries.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hope you all found that useful. Does anyone have any questions, or just let me know if you've not now and drop me an email. I thought it'd be useful to give you an overview of how we transfer the data. So it will be inputted each period. That I will send some an email over with the specific dates. I think it was the end of week 2 of each period. So within the supply chain, I think it's about 3 individuals have been set up with the access to the supplier management tool. So it's how we're tracking all of the KPIs on across the ERP framework. So here is the dashboard. Actually, I'll share my screen. Realise I'm not doing that. So I'm just using the example from the data that BAM has inputted into this year of the ERP. So forget you've seen it. So as I was saying, you can download the data by Excel. So you export it. So this will happen each month, and I wasn't aware that you could all see each other's data, which apologies if I've caused confusion before, but hopefully this works for the best. So this is the data that you get back. So when I've been referring to tagging, that I've set different tags up within the RSVT. So for each supplier, you'll have the name of your supplier. You'll have the lot. So this will be 3 and 4. ERP, so we can bring everything together, and whether you're a generalist or a specialist. So just in terms of transferring, so I do have a guidance document I'll quickly show, or show you after, but you literally just copy and paste the data, and I will share the guidance with you. Actually, I should have gone back to, I think it would have gone back better to go from the beginning. So are you all aware of the KPI 11 shaping tomorrow's railway? Or would it be useful for me to give you an overview? Okay. So it's made up of 3 measures, so employment and skills, local spend and social inclusion, and small medium enterprises. And we're looking at the percentage achieved at the plan versus the actual social value. So the measures are made up of different metrics within the RSVT that were made during your ITT commitments. And here is a list, so we'll be sharing this guidance with you afterwards. So coming over here, we've got the supplier management tool. So as I mentioned, it's how we're tracking the KPIs. So it's still a work in progress and still making improvements. So this is instructions of how to download the data. So this is what I was doing before. So I pressed that button and then that downloaded the data, which is how I got it here. And then I copied and pasted all of the data that was in the downloaded from the RSVT. So we've got the KPI 11 social value worksheet, which is set up with some, I think it's some macros, the way that we're bringing together the 3 measures. So it's supposed to be the same size as the downloaded data. It should be. Yeah, so it's copied and pasted, and then it comes toward and it rolls up the 3 measures. So as you can see here, that using this example, they plan to do £76,000 worth of employment and skills, but they'd achieved 56,000. Planned nearly 5,000, but haven't achieved it, just the way that the work bank's played out. So how it works is then you file, save it, and then send it over to the individual within your organisation who I will let you know. This is the contact for the supplier management tool, and then each period report and upload a copy of the spreadsheet. And that's how you transfer the data from the RSVT to supplier management tool. Does anyone have any questions?
Just out of interest, so how will you be using the RSVT dashboard then, Vicky, as ERP, or will you not? Will you just be wanting to use that supplier tool?
Do you mean to track the social value data?
Yeah, it seems that you're collecting everything through that spreadsheet and not the RSVT.
So you put the data like against your ITT commitments into the RSVT to measure it, but we're using the supplier management tool to bring together all of the KPIs across the ERP, because we're like KPI 11, so I can't remember how many there are exactly, but it's just the way for the framework to manage it.
Yeah, just curious. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions today? But if you think of anything, please feel free to drop me an email or send me an invite and jump on a call. Okay, right. Thank you very much, and I'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.